All right, episode 5 of Ahsoka came out, and everyone's going crazy over it because Hayden Christensen came back, and we got some Clone Wars scenery. For me, this was just nostalgia of the episode, and why I like Hayden Christensen. He did a good job this episode, and really, he's probably been the best thing about the whole season. I just don't think this is going to work in the long term of just cameos out the ass to carry Star Wars. So I'm going to go through the plot real quick and talk about sort of what I liked about it and what I didn't along the way. So we start out, Hera brought Jason and Chopper to the war zone, like all good mothers do, and they're looking for Sabine or Ahsoka because they can't find either one of them. They don't know what happened. So they're scanning. They say they can't find anything on the scanners. Here we see Hayden Christensen talking to Ahsoka, also known as Anakin. They made this look like the world between worlds. I don't really know why, because spoiler, she's just kind of in like a forced coma, and these are her own memories or near-death experience or whatever the case is. And he's not obviously not really Anakin. So this is sort of her reconciling with her own memories, which I just don't like this. They did something similar in Rise of Skywalker, where Kylo Ren talks to a Force ghost of Han Solo who can't be a Force ghost, so it's really just him accepting that he killed his own dad. They start talking, and Anakin, well, the fake Anakin, says live or die. Ahsoka says she's not going to fight him. They start dueling. These are definitely the best lightsaber scenes of the series, and I would say it's really not even close. Hayden Christensen or his stunt double, whichever, is still really fast with it, still really fluid with it. You get all his little signature moves, like his twirls and stuff. And it's unfortunate to me that they can't put that kind of work in the entire season, because the rest of the lightsaber fights look really slow. And even in this one, while there's multiple between Anakin and Ahsoka, there's multiple ones that just look slow. And it's like, I mean, put the work in or cast someone who can move faster. I don't really know what to say about it. It's really frustrating to watch, though. So here, let me see if I can just play a little snippet and not get hit with copyright. And you can see there just how much faster it looks when he's involved in the scene. And I don't understand why they don't all look like that. Like, honestly, it just makes it seem like either they're so rushed to make stuff or they're just lazy that they don't put the effort in to make all of the fights kind of get after it. I mean, especially Ahsoka, because her fighting style is, she's kind of a speedster with, dual lightsabers. That's her thing. We cut away back to Hera and Jason. Scanners aren't picking up anything. Jason says, Mom, I feel something out there. Like, can't you hear the lightsabers? And this is a really weird scene where I don't know what their intent was, where Hera starts listening harder, and it's implied that she can hear the lightsabers. I don't know why she would be able to. And I don't really know why Jason can hear them either, honestly. When you find out at the end of the episode, this is all just in Ahsoka's head. Like, how sensitive to the Force is he that he can tell that? I don't know. I just thought it was strange. And also, it's really confusing if you already know what the world between worlds are. If you've never seen the world between worlds, then you don't know what's going on. But if you've seen the world between worlds, then you know how it's like a nexus to a bunch of different points in time. So when it looks like that, you're like, oh, Ahsoka's in the world between worlds. But it's not. It's just a hallucination or something, or near-death experience, whatever. Which makes the episode really confusing to watch the first time. Especially because in a few minutes here, they travel into one of her memories, which presumably something would be similar in the world between worlds. So this keeps going. They keep talking. Hera's like, go look more, go lower, scan wider, whatever. And pilot guy comes up and he's like, hey, or Mon Mothma says she can't stall him much longer. What are we going to tell him? Like, we need to get back. This whole thing is really annoying to me because we all know it's going to end with Hera getting proven right that Thrawn was a threat and they're going to let her off with no punishment. When really, she should probably be tried for treason and also taking a child into a war zone. She is a general and she took off with military resources during wartime and ignored the Senate and just did whatever she wanted. I know that she's part of the protagonist and we're rooting for her, but if this was a real life situation where some military general in the US just took soldiers and went wherever he wanted after the Senate said no, everyone in the world would be calling for them to be tried for treason. Every single person. You know, when they were part of the rebellion between episodes 3 and 4, it's a lot less structured. So I feel like you can get away with a lot more of that kind of behavior, of just kind of doing what you want. You're all trying to survive. You're fighting the Empire. It's a desperate time. But here, where you're trying to reestablish order as like the new, or the High Republic, sorry, not the New Republic, as the new government, and then you don't enforce your own laws on high up military people, it just reeks of corruption. I don't understand why they went this route with it, where she's essentially just ignoring the Senate and not going to get in trouble. It's annoying to watch. Because Sabine did the same thing earlier, repeatedly, where she was supposed to be part of different things on Lothal and just was like, no. And then she stole the map, which is why they're in this whole situation to begin with. And then she handed it over on top of that. We go back, we get a little bit more of them dueling. I think this is where Anakin does his little twirl that everybody likes. This is where he does like the live or die, and she says, I'm not going to fight you type thing, and then he cuts off the bridge from under her feet, and we fall into a Clone Wars memory, which I'm pretty sure if you're a Clone Wars fan, this is cool to see. So in here we get young Ahsoka, and we are getting this memory of their siege of Mandalore. You know, they're fighting and they're killing people, and she's killing Mandalorians and whatever. She's talking to Anakin, and she's saying, you know, I don't want to just be a warrior. It's kind of this whole thing where she wants to be more than just a soldier. And this kind of just goes on. They run through the dust. You see, kind of don't really see the enemy that much. And I will say, the de-aging in this episode, I think looks really good. I was a little bit worried at the end of the last episode because I thought Anakin looked a little bit funky, but he looks really good in this. Hayden Christensen, I think, looks good for his age in real life. And then with makeup and whatever technology, I think he looks almost indistinguishable from how he looked in the prequel trilogy. So we get this whole dynamic where Ahsoka's saying, I don't want to just be a soldier. And Anakin explains to her, when I was coming up as a Jedi, or when I was a Padawan, we were just peacekeepers, so we didn't need to be soldiers. But now it's a wartime, so I'm having to teach you to be a soldier for you to survive. And Ahsoka doesn't seem very happy with that overall. And we get a couple cool little shots in here. They do this a couple times in the episode, where Anakin's walking, you see the lightning hit, and then he's Vader, and the music changes a little bit. Yeah, that's neat. I mean, it's kind of shallow. They've done this thing repeatedly at this point. The same sort of thing where he was both Vader and Anakin at the end of the Obi-Wan show, which they also did in Rebels. Eventually, Chopper's scanner picks up Ahsoka for some reason when the ships don't know why. Jason tells them to get as low as they can to fly. They keep looking. She's out in the middle of the water, so this is why she's not in the world between worlds. And Hu Yang finds out that this wasn't a sanctioned mission, so he seems a little bit annoyed with Hera. So Anakin brings up the live or die thing again. Now his lightsaber is red. Pretty obvious symbolism there. They have a little fight. He beats her ass and kind of sends her back to the bridge world between worlds place that we saw before. So they're back in here. You can see, maybe not in this image, but overall Anakin has the Sith eyes, like he does at the end of episode 3 when he goes and murders all the younglings. And they do this thing that I really wish they would stop doing in Star Wars, because it just makes the lightsabers even weaker than they already are. I mean, we've seen so many people be stabbed at this point who didn't die. And now in the Obi-Wan show and this scene right here, they do this thing where Anakin disarms his opponent, and then his opponent just takes his lightsaber. Like Obi-Wan does it to him in the Obi-Wan show, and Ahsoka does it here. And both times, it's just like, why? Like, how would that even happen? How could you take a lightsaber when you're disarmed? Like, how weak is the lightsaber that even if you stab someone with it, they can't kill you? And even if you disarm them, they can just take it from you. And Ahsoka just takes it from him like a bitch. And this whole thing looks slow, too. Let me see if I can play this little clip and not get hit with copyright so you can see what I'm talking about, because I think it's really frustrating to watch. See, so he disarms her, really slow swing, and whoop, mine now. I hate that so much, what they've done to the lightsabers. It makes them just completely ineffectual. So she throws the lightsaber away, and she says, I want to live. And then Anakin blinks a couple of times, and he's back with his regular eyes. He's Anakin again, and he leaves. And then the room starts filling up with water because she's in the ocean. So, thanks to Jason and Chopper mainly, they find out where she is. We get this really subtle imagery of her being baptized or reborn or whatever. And she's wearing gray here, and then she's wearing white when she comes out. And I guess Dave Filoni wants to compare her to Gandalf. And we also got to see his character beat who's supposed to be the most powerful Jedi, which is absurd, but whatever. So Ahsoka gets rescued, they take her back, she wakes up like a day later, and here you can see she's wearing white, she's been reborn, she's a lot happier now. And I will say all of the acting in this episode seems to be better and more expressive, and I don't really know why. I get what they were going for with Ahsoka with this stoic after the stuff with Anakin and blamed herself, and now she's been reborn and gotten closure and whatever. I feel like this was just a huge missed opportunity because I thought when she saw him at the end of episode 4, they were going to have like some dialogue. And even if it's her memories or whatever, first of all, I don't know why they wouldn't just make it a Force ghost. But I guess they wanted the lightsaber duels. Because, you know, a Force ghost would give it actual closure, not just her memories and her reconciling them, but fine. But it's like they wanted the payoff, but didn't really do any of the build-up. And part of what I think is frustrating is they made Ahsoka seem bored. I know they were going for like stoic and reserved, and now she's happy and relieved and whatever, which is fine. But then she shouldn't be like completely like no personality, and now all of a sudden she's normal. This is one of those things where, like, yeah, I've seen Clone Wars and Rebels, so I know what's going on. I couldn't imagine if a regular person was trying to watch this show with no explanation as to what's going on. Like, you would see, oh, Ahsoka was Anakin's Padawan, but beyond that, you don't really know anything. Like, you don't know about how she felt like he betrayed her and she got kicked out of the Jedi and all that kind of stuff. And I don't really know why they didn't use the first 4 episodes to set that sort of thing up more, or at least give some dialogue in the scene when they had Anakin involved to explain it a little bit. And I kind of thought that's what they were going to do, was like talk about it and her either be scared of becoming like him or blaming herself as part of why he became Darth Vader. And he was going to kind of, you know, give her closure on that. And instead they just did this weird live or die thing where she's having like a near-death experience in a coma, and then she just reconciled with herself. And I just feel like it doesn't really make much sense that after, I guess at this point, it's probably 30 years, roughly, that she wasn't able to get any kind of closure on that. And then a memory where she talks to her own mind is how she gets closure. And there wasn't any really meaningful conversation in there. There was none of the her blaming herself and Anakin being like, no, it wasn't your fault type thing, which is usually how those scenes go, which I think is just a really strange choice. And I just don't think that the payoff that they did, they actually earned. They just kind of did the payoff with no build up. So anyway, this image that we're looking at is Hera talking to Ahsoka about how Jason helped save her. And then she asks, you know, where's Sabine? And she hands her the half of the map that got destroyed. Ahsoka uses the Force like to contact through the map. And she hears the conversation between Baylan and Sabine. And she says Sabine was alive when they left. So Hera gets a call from Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma's like, do you have any evidence? Obviously, she doesn't. So now they're sending a fleet out there to get her. Ahsoka sees the Purrgil in the sky and says, hey, the Purrgil travel through hyperspace, so let's use them to follow the hyperspace ring to get to Ezra and Thrawn. And Hera essentially says, you know, I have my kid, he can't go between galaxies, so we have to go home. When she should be worried about treason charges, and even Mon Mothma tells her, hey, you need to bring Ahsoka as a witness so that you can both testify, otherwise you might be suspended as a general forever. Which, again, I don't know what the punishment is in the New Republic for treason. She should probably be hanged or whatever they do. In prison for life. And also taking a child into a war zone. But anyway, Hera's going to go home. She asks the pilot guy to go stall. We get a little bit of him stalling the lady pilot that took over the old guy that died in the first episode, like the first 5 minutes, the ones that Baylan and Shin killed. So she's the captain of that ship now. And then we get this really drawn out, like 15-minute scene with the Purrgil. And it seems like they're trying to sort of call back to almost like Jurassic Park, where you're supposed to just be amazed by these creatures. Whoever did the soundtrack here did a really good job. There's this really orchestral, just like slow, epic build up. And the music is really good. I just don't know if it really fits with this scene because I don't know if anyone likes the Purgle. I mean, for me, the Purgle I'm pretty neutral about. You have a galaxy of crazy animals and creatures, and some of them are force sensitive that aren't even sentient and all kinds of stuff. So I'm okay with some kind of being that can travel through hyperspace and kind of flies and whatever. But overall, I mean, they're just giant space whales that look a little bit squiddish and sort of spermy. And this is like the dumbest part of the episode to me by far. So what you're looking at is Ahsoka and Huyang flying into the Purgle mouth because she communicated with it through the Force and it opened its mouth, which I'm fine with that part. But then Huyang says, are they going to take us to the right place? And Ahsoka says, no idea. It's essentially the writers saying, well, I don't know how to figure this shit out, so let's just laugh it off. And it's frustrating because then Huyang says something along the lines of we could end up anywhere. And Ahsoka says, going anywhere is better than going nowhere. And it's another one of these lines that they think is like philosophical, but it's fucking stupid. Like, no, going anywhere is not better than going nowhere, necessarily. You could die. You could end up in a different galaxy, even than the one Ezra's in. You could end up going the wrong way. You could end up in the middle of nowhere with nowhere to go. Like, none of it makes any sense. And they just drop this line like, dropping Jedi wisdom on you. It's really irritating to listen to. So, the guy stalled long enough. Hera contacts the captain and says, get out of the way, because the Purgle are trying to leave. Big build-up finally finishes. The Purgle take off to hyperspace, and the episode ends. I know that most people are going to be like, oh my god, 10 out of 10, peak Star Wars. I just have to wonder, when Star Wars is only trying to appeal to a very small percentage of the base, if they're doing a big disservice to Star Wars. And also, with the writing being so bad, like, I like seeing Hayden Christensen back. He's had the best lightsaber stuff so far. Not even close. All his scenes were good, if you've seen Clone Wars. But I just don't know how long they can play this nostalgia card. Even with the people who like it. Like, I like, seeing Obi-Wan come back and Hayden come back, and I was looking forward to Han, Luke, and Leia coming back, even though they shit all over that. And it's just frustrating that nostalgia is all they have to play, and they can't just get functional writing. Even if the writing is not perfect, just have it be decent. That scene between Anakin and Ahsoka could have been really emotional. It could have been a really emotional payoff to kind of bring to a close that relationship that had 6 seasons together in Clone Wars before she left the Jedi. Instead, it's like some duels, a little bit of stuff that doesn't really make much sense, and then it's done. And now this is twice in 2 years that they've wasted Hayden Christensen. But they didn't use him for anything in the Obi-Wan show except flashbacks. And the flashbacks were nonsensical in that one too. I would wager that this show, much like Obi-Wan, in 6 months to a year, will be forgotten by 90% of people. Like, when you don't have a good story, you can't latch on to the characters, that's what happens. Like, stuff being cool and nostalgic can only get you so far. And for me, that card is played out through Disney. And they've had cameos all through The Mandalorian. I wouldn't call them cameos in the sequel trilogy because they were a part of it. I mean, they just dumped all over the legacy characters. And for me, it's a fine episode. But even then, like, you end it with Ahsoka's plan being to get into the giant space whale and say, well, hopefully it takes us to the right place. Just between galaxies, and they're not that big anyway. It's just asinine. I just wish they would hire people who knew what the hell they were doing. I'm not going to keep going on about it. This is it for me for this one. We got 3 episodes left. I'm not expecting anything better than this episode, honestly, for the rest of the season. I assume we'll be back to a lot of Sabine and just garbage again. With no nostalgia to hide it, I'm assuming people will finally start seeing it for what it is, but some people just like Star Wars no matter what it is and no matter the quality. So I guess that's just where we're at. All right, thanks. See ya. If you're still here, like and subscribe and all that shit. Bye.